Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Wright Experience. In fact, this is the 101st episode of our show. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of this show. And tonight we have an amazing guest that we're going to bring to you shortly. She wears many, many hats, and we'll get an opportunity to talk to her about all the wonderful things that she does in our great state and nation. And so tonight's guest is Dr. Tiffany D. Tyson. Dr. Tiffany D. Tyson is a native of Wilson, North Carolina. She is the lead clinical doctorate psychiatric nurse practitioner of the OIC Behavioral Health Department. Currently, she treats adolescents and adults with behavioral health conditions, including ADHD, anxiety, bipolar disorder, depression, insomnia, PTSD, schizophrenia, trauma, and other various behavioral health disorders. She is board certified in family practice as well as behavioral health. During her graduate studies, she noticed a great need for motivation and mentorship for teens, minority youth, and young women. She began a mentoring program at Forest Hills Middle School in Wilson, North Carolina, under the principal's leadership at that time, Mrs. Melissa Dancy. The mentoring program increased self-esteem, provided leadership skills, promoted healthy eating and fitness, and introduced young women to positive local female leaders. She later started her company, Tyson Multimedia Incorporated, which uses motivational speaking and STEM, science, technology, engineering, art, math, and music, to empower teens and young adults. Her professional efforts have been recognized in 2023 as a recipient of the President Biden Lifetime Achievement Award honoree and as the director of the North Carolina President Biden Lifetime Achievement Award. She also has been recognized by Who's Who Cambridge Professionals, National Association for Professional Women of the Year, and she was commencement speaker at Sally B. Howard School for the Arts and Education. Dr. Tyson is also a serial innovator, author, and social activist. She's written 3 books for teens and children, and her book, Patty, Fix It, Billy the Bully, has been recognized by Congressman G.K. Butterfield as an excellent guide that empowers youth with a multicultural presence. She is a 2-time Amazon best-selling author of co-authored anthology projects, Reclaiming My Life and After the Storm. Reclaiming My Life is also a podcast that is posted. Tyson has been featured on local, regional, and national media, including Black Issues Forum, etc. Now, at this time, I'd like to present one of the smartest folks I know on the face of this earth, Dr. Tiffany Tyson.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
Pleasure to welcome you to the Wright Experience. I got an opportunity to meet you. I think we were booked, if you will, at the same service, speaking engagement. And when I learned how smart you were, I wanted you to come on this show and enlighten our audience on the myriad of things that you do. So certainly am thankful that you agreed to be a part of the Wright Experience.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. So let's get right into the questions. Now you have a myriad of responsibilities. I think we'll start with the Tyson multimedia work, and then if you'll also talk to us about the dual role of being I think I've gotten it right, a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Talk to us about both of those roles and what you do and how you serve people in those roles.
Okay. Well, Tyson Multimedia was actually sort of created when I was doing my OBGYN rotation. And during that time, I saw young girls about the age of 12 and 13, and they were coming in and, we were treating them for STDs and also talking about pregnancy. And I thought, wow, at that age, I was, playing with Barbies. But But then I got to ask them, one of the questions was, why do they want to have a child at such a young age? And one of the girls replied that she wanted someone to love. And I thought, wow, that's pretty deep. And so, and I began to talk to the mom, and we started talking about what were her interests, what were her goals. And they lived in a rural area at the time. And so she felt like there was not any opportunities there for her daughter to participate in. And I thought, wow, okay, there's a need. And that's when I kind of reached out to, and I said, well, there's a need in this area where I'm doing my rotation. Maybe there's a need back home. And so I reached out to Principal Dancy. And so I wanted young girls to have an opportunity. First, it started with young girls because at the time, at that particular school, the young girls were dealing with issues such as self-esteem. And so created the program to help not only boost their confidence, but also let them see women that look like them in areas of STEM and science and medicine and the arts. And so Tyson Multimedia does that. It allows people, girls, and also youth to see individuals that look like them in the areas of science, technology, engineer, art, and math. And so I try to look at the whole child. And so initially the focus was on nutrition, but we also focus on music, because I believe when you give children creativity and you allow them that opportunity, they're think, wow, if I can do this, I can do other things. And so the program not only helps them with creativity, but also it helps them with stress, because children, as we know, nowadays are dealing with pressures from bullying. And sometimes we cover bullying also in the program. They're also dealing with social media. And so we also talk about how to avoid the negative things on social media and how to use social media for good. And so, again, we're looking at the whole child, but also focusing on how they interact with their friends as well, and relationships. So, relationships are important in school. And, some kids want to fit in the popular crowd. And sometimes there's peer pressure there as well. So we cover also issues that children are dealing with, plus we utilize the arts as well.
Okay. And did that birth out of your work, your professional work, or I guess both of those are professions, but out of the high paying professional work, I guess. Is that where that came from?
Yes, like I said, just hearing those teen girls doing that rotation, and them saying that, wow, we don't have this in our area, or not even having the desire, or even when I asked them what do they want to be when they grow up, so they couldn't answer that at the time because they hadn't been exposed to certain positive things, or again, women that look like them, whether they were Hispanic or African American. And so I think when people or children see others that look like them in the space that they haven't even thought about, they're like, wow, if she can do that, maybe I can do that as well. So yes, it kind of birthed from my rotation.
Okay. And so talk to our audience a little bit about, because I actually had to ask someone that I trust very much, what exactly is a psychiatric nurse practitioner? What exactly is that? I know I read what you do, but what exactly is that?
So I'm actually doctorally prepared, and so I prescribe, but I also am able to participate in therapy with the patient as well. So we can have individual therapy as well as prescribed medicine. So they're coming in, they're seeing me, and I'm diagnosing them based off their symptoms and what they've experienced, also their family history. So we do a complete evaluation to look at, to help formulate the diagnoses and then develop a treatment plan. Again, going back to, I like to treat people holistically as well, because I do have that family background. So it's not just, and I tell people, it's not just I'm here to give you a pill or medicine, but this is a lifestyle. Well-being is a lifestyle. So we also talk about their sleep routine. We talk about what their eating habits are. We talk about their socialization as well, because all these things are so very important to our mental health. We know that we need human contact and human interaction to also have good mental well health or well-being.
And how long have you been involved in that? I don't think we read that tonight. How long have you been doing that work?
So I've been practicing now about 8 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. So I learned in my research and preparation for the show tonight that July is Minority Mental Health Month. So how did that month originate?
So BB Moore Campbell, she was an author, activist, a motivational speaker. And so at the time, about 2006, she created a group. NAMI was already created, National Alliance of Mental Health, but she wanted to break down the stigma that's associated within the Black and Brown community related to mental health. And so NAMI actually puts together resources for individuals of color or diverse backgrounds, the LGBT community, but anyone that's looking for resource information on mental health. They also provide peer-to-peer education. And so they're located in different areas across the country and the state. But she wanted to bring something there in urban Los Angeles to help those individuals in that area. And so when she died in 2008, her friends kind of rallied and said, hey, we need to make this not only just National Minority Mental Health Month, but let's make it the BB Moore Campbell Month as well.
And so you mentioned stigmas and the fact that they seem to be pretty pervasive in Black and Brown communities, particularly when it comes to mental health and the whole admission, I guess, and then seeking help. Why do you think there is such a stigma around mental health in Black and Brown communities?
Well, part of that comes from history, generational things, things that were presented in your family, discrimination, racism. And so if you heard stories from your families or friends, if they went to the doctor, say if they were just being treated for high blood pressure or diabetes, and if they didn't have a great experience with that, they're less likely to go be treated for mental health. Because as you know, earlier, mental health was associated with the word crazy. And so that's just another label that Black and Brown people would be obtaining if they go seek treatment. And so it's taboo, or it's, they're very apprehensive about going to see a mental health provider because they don't want to be given another label as crazy. But we don't use the word crazy actually in the office, but we know that some people have that idea, oh, you're going to go see that crazy doctor if you show up at a mental health office. But what I like now is mental health, the conversation can actually start in your primary care provider's office. So that way you don't have to be afraid to go in and talk to them about, hey, I'm not sleeping well, or I'm irritable all the time, or I'm tired all the time. So that dialogue can actually start in your primary care provider's office. And so that takes away some of the stigma. And then, so say if the primary care provider has tried you on one or two medicines and they're not working, then they may refer you over to us, a specialty, to actually start treating the client.
Thank you very much for that insight. That's certainly interesting to know. And as a career educator, we're sometimes faced with trying to figure out when to refer and how to encourage folks to seek help and so forth. So thank you for that. Dr. Tyson, very often, particularly as professional educators or just in general, we seek to try to look at and identify when folks need to seek help. So along those lines, what are some of the signs and symptoms of, say, depression, or some of the things that we look for initially when seeking mental health help?
Great question. So if you're noticing the person has been feeling depressed for at least 2 weeks and they don't have an interest in doing the things they like to do, such as if the person likes to go play ball or like to hang out with their friends, they're not doing that. But then also if they're either sleeping too much or not getting enough sleep, if they're overeating or undereating, if they start feeling helpless or hopeless or worthless, feel like they're better off not being here. Also thoughts of suicide as well. But then let me go back just a minute. They can't concentrate, so they can't sit and read like a paper, or they're easily distracted. So those are some things that you want to be concerned about, and you want to check in on that person.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I have heard and seen where a lot of mental health professionals seem to be talking to us, those of us that might need um, or being encourage people to seek help about self check-ins. So talk to us about that. What is a self check-in, and why is it necessary, and so forth?
Another great question. So, self check-in is important for all of us to do because we are so busy. We wear many hats. Some of us are dad, educators, uncles, parents, and sometimes we're busy taking our kids or our nephews to games and practices. And so, it's important to check in with yourself. For example, am I feeling tired all the time? Am I getting enough sleep, or am I only, living on 4 hours of sleep or 5 hours of sleep? Am I even drinking enough water? Am I dehydrated? Am I eating 3 meals a day, or am I just catching snacking, or am I just going to the fast food place, McDonald's or Burger King? So checking in on ourselves, also checking in, doing that annual visit with again, going back to your primary care provider, because a lot of things may mimic mental health, but they may be medically related. If you have a low thyroid, or if you have a low vitamin D or vitamin B12, you may need to go get your annual numbers checked or your annual labs checked to see if those numbers are low, because they can also affect your mood, your irritability, your sleep, and also your hair loss. You may be like, wow, my hair's been thin, and maybe I'm stressed out about something, but it may not be that. It may just be that you need your iron is low, or those vitamin levels are low. So knowing what your numbers are, knowing, if you're getting enough sleep, or listening to your body. It's so important to listen to your body. Wow, am I having headaches all the time? Am I dizzy? Because sometimes mental health or stress can have a physiological effect. Headaches, nausea, dizziness, you're breaking out in hives. And so that's what I mean by checking in on yourself.
Okay. And you mentioned something very early in all of the descriptive measures. You said something about drinking enough water. And I was reading something the other day that talked about that. What does that have to do with successful mental acuity, or what have you?
Well, drinking enough water gives you energy, keeps the toxins flushed out of your body.
Okay.
You're not having, again, stomach pains, back pains. So you're drinking enough water to keep your energy going for the day.
Okay, I think that might have been a good question for William here to hear the answer to. Got to get my water up, I guess. So there seems to be, particularly amongst students that we're serving in today's school, an increase in anxiety and depression. It seems just about every week, particularly in the district size of the one that I serve, which currently has about 15,000 students. And all across the nation, we seem to be dealing with more issues of anxiety and depression. Why do you think that is, and what can we do better about it?
So, three things right off the top. Again, going back to social media. How much time are you spend on social media? Social media can cause anxiety and depression because you're looking at, wow, what your friends are posting. Are they really having that much fun, or are they really doing those things? When the actuality, people mostly post the highlights. I like to call it, when you have a sports highlight and it shows you the most exciting thing that happened during the game. So sometimes that's what people post on social media. That might not be their actual life, but with you're the person that's looking at it, you're like, wow, they're always doing something. I'm never, involved in that much activity. Also, when you see social media posts, sometimes the person's skin is like flawless and they've used all these different filters. And so it makes you feel negative about yourself. It gives you low self-esteem, low self-confidence. Going back to bullying, we know that bullying still happens at the school. It still happens on social media, cyberbullying. And so there's many ways that kids post things on Snapchat and other platforms. Bullying, peer pressure, the idea of trying to fit in with your friends, or FOMO, fear of missing out, that you're not, doing what they're doing. And so those things are still getting the right grades. Am I going to make appropriate grades to get into college? That's very stressful. And, I'm trying to have this balance between extracurricular activities and then good grades. So some of those things are why kids are stressed out. But what's unique now, there's so many different apps that parents can use on the computer, and it kind of identifies how long the child has been on the computer to allow them to have a break. Or if you're noticing, if the child's been on the computer for a certain amount of time, they start feeling sad or depressed. And so it kind of shuts off to give them a break. So having a break from the computer is not only good for your social emotional or your self-esteem, but it's also good for your eyes. Sometimes staring at the computer too long can have some challenges on your eyesight as well. So those are some things of why kids are feeling more anxious. We know that the pandemic caused, a level of depression and anxiety because kids didn't have that, again, going back to that contact with their peers. So we're glad that now things are open back up where they can go back to school, because they were previously missing that interaction with their peers or their particular groups, whether they were in the band or chorus or if they played on a sports team. So we know that had a big effect as well. And some of those kids, because they were online, everyone learns differently. And so some of those kids may have fallen behind as well. And sometimes that can cause a little bit of depression or anxiety if they feel like they're still behind from their other classmates as well.
So as we prepare for another school year, I can't believe it's almost here. Seems like we just had graduations and school starts again, I think, in a couple of weeks, certainly in some school districts. But as we prepare for the new school year, we already talked a little bit about depression and how it affects young folks. But what are some early warning signs maybe that we should be aware of that our students exhibit or young people exhibit?
Question. So in the classroom, if we want to take it there, teachers can kind of notice if the child's behavior has changed, if they were, coming to class on time. Also looking at their grooming, if their grooming habits have changed, they're not as neat as they were before. If you notice that they're not socializing with their particular group of friends. So those are some of the things. And if they're having to go to the bathroom a lot, again, missing class, being absent, not showing up on time. And so those are some of the things that you can kind of look at. And then if you're noticing certain things, I know sometimes teachers don't want to cross that boundaries with asking certain questions to certain kids. But again, if you're noticing if they're more irritable in class, maybe having them talk to the counselor if they feel like something is going on, or even maybe sending them to the nurse if you're noticing certain particular habits that the particular child has.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Let's talk a little bit about now. You, like I said, you wear so many hats, but I know you're a motivational speaker. I saw evidence of that for sure. But you've also done some authoring of some children's literature. So how'd you get into that? And tell us a little bit about the things that you have authored or co-authored and about those works.
Well, let's see. Children's literature actually started at a pretty young age. I remember being in college, and I started even before that in elementary school. I was entered into like a short story contest and actually was featured in one of the booklets. And so it kind of started back then. And so it's just kind of grown as I've gotten older. But then again, going back to issues that kids deal with, such as bullying. And so that was kind of the book that I wrote related to middle school kids, because we know that bullying can start in middle school and elementary school. And the theme of that story is that we realize that, people say, well, why do kids bully? Well, bullies hurt others because they're hurting themselves. So either someone is bullying them, or something's going on at home, or another child at home or another child at school is bullying them. And so that's why I wrote that particular book, because I thought it was important to also show that sometimes we think kids can't really respond to certain things, but realize that kids can be resilient and sometimes they can problem solve on their own. And so that particular book kind of talks to kids about how they can help problem solve, but also identifying when you need to seek an adult for help as well. And I'm also excited about the 2 anthology projects that I've been part of. And one of the visionary author for that is Ms. Claudia Massey. And so she kind of reached out to different individuals. And so I became a part of that one. And the particular book, Reclaiming My Life, talks about trauma that people experience. And I thought that was an important project to be a part of, because I do see individuals in the office that suffer with trauma. And I think it's important for women and men to be able to read stories about not only people that experienced trauma, but how they overcame. And so those stories in the book talk about the issues or the trauma that the person experienced, but how they overcame. And in that particular book, I take the clinician's role and I talk about there is hope. But everybody's journey for healing, whether it's trauma or something that's a challenge that's happened in their life, is different. And so the key in that chapter that I wrote is not that how long it takes that person to overcome, because everybody heals at different stages. Like you may be like, wow, okay, I prayed about it. I went to church. I'm better now. But other individuals may need therapy. And it's okay if one individual needs therapy or one individual just needs a support circle. And I talk about the importance of having support, because we don't get anywhere in life without having some type of support, whether it's your parents, whether it's your sorority, fraternity, sisters and brothers, or whether it's having the support of your faith and your church family. So we all need support, and it's okay to have support or to ask for help.
So I heard a friend of mine say not very long ago, it's okay sometimes to not be okay. That's kind of what I think you hear you saying, and not be afraid to seek for help and ask for guidance and so forth. And while it is certainly appropriate for us to seek help in the church, there are also paid professionals that can help us as well. So thank you for saying that for us. Here's kind of a final question, if you will. You have garnered some amazing success. You are doing some amazing work in your community and throughout eastern part of North Carolina, it seems. And so here's what I would ask you. If you could give advice to someone who perhaps wants to get into some of the fields that you're involved in, what would that advice be?
Again, going back to support, it's important to find someone that's doing what you want to do. And that's really, really what I did. I've found, and I still talk to my mentors today. And, whenever I've reached a certain milestone, or even when I just pick up the phone and just converse. So I think it's important to find someone that's doing what you want to be doing and connect with that person, allow that person to mentor you, shadow them to see what they do on a daily basis, to see if, that's really what you want to do. There's so many things out there now in the field of mental health. You can work in different sectors. And so I think it's important to find a positive mentor in your life.
Okay. Very good. Good advice for any profession, and even in the work that you do. And so we appreciate that. Dr. Tyson, is there any other information or any other things that you want to say to our audience at this time?
So again, if you're looking for a therapist or a behavioral health provider, and you don't feel comfortable with, you want to find someone that looks like you, because I think, again, people tend to relate sometimes better with someone that looks like them. They feel like they can understand what they're going through. Give us a call. If you're in the Wilson, Rocky Mount surrounding areas, give us a call at 252-212-3350. If you know of someone that's in need of mental health or you're concerned about, give us a call as well. And also, if you have want programming for your children, your church, your after-school program, give us a call at 252-281-4884. We're also on Facebook, social media, Tyson Multimedia. Look us up that way. Also, the mental health aspect is oicbehavioralhealth.com.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll get all of that posted also on the post-show send outs and everything. And we certainly do appreciate you being with us. If you'll come back, if you'll hold on a minute, we'll come back and close out the show.
Okay.
My guest next week on the Wright Experience will be Dr. Jeff McDarris. Dr. McDarris is a recently retired superintendent in the western part of the state of North Carolina. We're looking forward to have him back on the show. He was on the show during our first year, and we're looking forward to seeing what he's up to next and talk to him about the amazing career that he had in the western part of the state of North Carolina. Dr. Tyson, I want to thank you so very much for being on the show and expounding on that amazing knowledge that I knew you would. And we certainly all have learned more about the field of mental health and STEAM and how to better help young people. And we appreciate your insight and knowledge. And we also look forward, this forum is open to you to come back at any time and share with us. And we'll be depending on your knowledge to help us get better and grow every day. So thank you again for agreeing to be a part of the Wright Experience.
Thank you.
And to the Wright Experience audience, thank you very much for watching, and good evening.